Aya nga baliw sar nga bira man nga maram bira kitu maram bira man iti kunen ya nga sar nga baliw ba pinito.
Me depend la communication mo how you mean togetherness now you miss have solve problem we miss stuff.
Ang namigini buwit naman ka numagi. Ngayon werang po nga na iputog niya ako. Ngayon paano na ako nauto. Ngayon data.
Despite years of prevention efforts, cases of HIV continue to increase in some Pacific islands. Violence and discrimination against women and women's inability to negotiate for using condoms is one contributing factor to this increase. The problem in addressing these issues is the fact that sexuality, HIV, gender violence and other related subjects are considered taboo. Especially between men and women, issues of sex and a woman's right to make decisions on her sexual health are simply not considered appropriate to discuss in traditional Pacific communities. Compared to other regions of the world, the number of reported HIV and AIDS cases in the Pacific remains relatively low. But the incidence of other sexually transmitted infections, or STIs, is high and continues to rise. This shows that many sexually active people are having unprotected sex with different partners. And of course, this is the main way that HIV is spread in the Pacific.
One of the things about sexually transmitted infections is, and HIV of course is a sexually transmitted infection, the behaviours that put people at risk sexually are the same. So high rates of sexually transmitted infections or STIs means that there's low rates of condom use.
Throughout the world, it is proven that community issues such as HIV and violence against women are addressed best by communities themselves. An innovative community-based training tool, first used in Africa, has now been introduced in the Pacific. It has been successfully used in over 100 countries throughout the world. It's called Stepping Stones.
And this exercise
Stepping Stones was designed as a training tool to enable communities to address their own challenges. It gives a voice to those in the community, mainly young people and women, whose views are traditionally not heard.
I think it's a program that works really well in the Pacific context because it just allows people to sort of have their own conversations within their own community and you're not forcing change in any way.
Stepping Stones was introduced in 2 Pacific Island countries in 2006. It is now jointly administered by FSPI, the Foundation for Peoples of the South Pacific International, and SPC, the Secretariat for the Pacific Community.
How Stepping Stones is different, it actually gets people within communities talking about HIV. What are the risks? What are the risk factors? What happens here in this community? And what do we as a community want and need to do about that? So it actually gets communities taking on ownership of these issues are real issues and they're important to us in our community and we want to do something about it.
During community activities, Stepping Stones targets sexual and reproductive health, HIV/AIDS, STIs, and gender relations. Currently, Stepping Stones is being run in 4 Pacific Island countries. In Fiji, Stepping Stones was introduced in 2006 through a pilot program. In all of the Stepping Stones programs in the Pacific, a workshop is first held to trained facilitators. For 10 days, they are trained to promote discussions around sexual health, domestic violence, and gender issues. These community trainers are then responsible for implementing a 17-module package over a period of 3 to 6 months, depending on other community obligations and commitments. 6 villages are now actively involved in the Stepping Stones program in Fiji. Stepping Stones tries to enable individuals and communities to change their behavior individually and collectively using the Stepping Stones methodology. Rather than concentrating on individuals or risk groups, Stepping Stones works with groups of peers of the same gender and similar age drawn from one community. The groups work separately much of the time so that they have a safe, supportive space for talking about intimate issues. Periodically, they meet all together to share insights.
Most people, they said that most of the things they hear in Stepping Stone, it's the first time they ever heard it.
Throughout the Stepping Stones process, community members participate in the program through methods such as role plays, which are both enjoyable and empowering. Stepping Stones builds on people's own experiences and priorities. It enables them to explore and negotiate with each other, to enable real behavioral change in both individuals and in their communities.
When it comes to Stepping Stone, it broadens what I know, and I've come to know so many things.
In Fiji, one of the unique aspects of the Stepping Stones program was the use of Peace Corps volunteers to assist as community facilitators.
The volunteers are in the community 24/7. They speak the dialect and language. They have great relationships with the community. So we partnered with Peace Corps and Peace Corps villages where the volunteers came over to work within a health context within the village.
Fiji has also experienced a number of challenges in trying to start the program in communities. One of these challenges has been to keep the older men in the community involved.
At first, when we started off, older men group was running well. When the younger men came in, the older men, they started withdrawing.
The sustained involvement of older men is a challenge for Stepping Stones in many countries. Another common challenge is that Stepping Stones talks about sexual health issues that are often difficult to discuss in traditional societies.
They said that this workshop is coming mainly to inquire about their sex life, to talk about their sex, which is not true, you know. And that is one of the challenges that I see, that people, they don't like it. They don't like what we talk about in sex.
But Stepping Stones in Fiji has also seen many successes. In particular, it has opened the eyes of rural women to issues that have traditionally been taboo to discuss. In Vanuatu, 3 communities originally started the Stepping Stones pilot program, but only one community was actively running it.
If somebody were to ask you, okay, think about it.
Yes,
Okay. You need to give that piece of paper.
The selection of appropriate communities has been a major challenge for Stepping Stones in Vanuatu.
When you're looking at facilitator selection and even community selection, you need to really take into consideration mobility.
So you showed me the one.
A lot of the communities that we've rolled out in to date have been closer to urban centres. So that's what we've been seeing. We've been seeing facilitators and participants going into town for weeks or months on end for work.
In Vanuatu, the lead organisation running Stepping Stones is One Small Bag Theatre. Which has both a drop-in health centre and peer educators in reproductive health who are experienced in going out into the community.
You fella, yeah, other girls, you think that you fella really know, or because of some fears, that's why you fella have to...
One lesson learned in Vanuatu is how intensive the Stepping Stones program can be and how essential it is for more than one organization to be involved in its implementation.
Make some decision inside home. My money that I'm saying, maybe I'm 100,000 because big money. You know got any something to make them you follow money when we done. Suppose me tell them say to cut beginning every year, to cut beginning every year. And very important by me include every NGOs where only stop from Vanuatu today. Lol kita tu suppose only have part inside lo Stepping Stone or only also karam out program lo Stepping Stone. Lol kita areas where stop Islam. Also small community lo islands play me around lo Vanuatu. And example lo sumigat na ya we mistab also say mistab lulu say important tu lo usual kita biskop whereby we stop lo base lo Vanuatu lo kita tu sa veranam Stepping Stone lo all places we stop lem also lo island around Vanuatu.
Another challenge in Vanuatu has been the need to improve skills of Stepping Stones trainers.
For kita lo full up flat training before you make sabe for kita lo Stepping Stones from full up lo mama well trainer well mama ya mi bisa support mi kita we first time lo kita we only attend one workshop mo mi first time lo kita tu we likam one trainer mo sometimes only no feel confident lo some sessions lo run him.
Okay, which partner man blow you like him? You think that time you hold him barava like him straight.
Despite the challenges and the small number of active communities, there have been some real successes in Vanuatu.
Penis blocketa, yeah.
When got one change, so before you had to talk about especially all taboo parts or all part of body, yes. But you got one change that you got full up papa, especially all papa living talam say. Interesting too much time where you start talk about more detail inside look at the parts play me where it been had lo talk about lo time before. One change by again say you got full up only start to apply like only start to karam contemplation from only film say yes you got all sickness and start lo country finish.
Some participants in Stepping Stones felt that the program helped raise awareness of community issues such as domestic violence.
Yosem lo community mainly yosem price mi kamanta plante megam se mano se mi sabe treating mo mano se one slave yosem oli look se mi straight no mo mi no wall no mo from mi pem hem finish.
Ting mi wan papa we mi stop treatment blow mi tu sta strong too much lol. Pe mi ding se mi right. Pata mi gam lo workshop ya mi fa na mo se all treatment ya mi no straight nothing lo. Life when by mi start treating mo la woman blue me.
In the Solomon Islands, 2 communities have so far completed the pilot project for Stepping Stones. As in other Pacific Island countries, the amount of time Stepping Stones requires for both the facilitators and the communities has been a huge challenge.
Time is one of the challenges. It takes a lot of time for me to really carry out pilot programs for community. And sometimes it's hard too for keeping up with facilitators that long. So.
Community program we are targeting now elders.
But what is different in the Solomons is that 5 non-government organizations are involved in the implementation of the program.
Mifala Garem non-government organization and Mifa Garem faith-based organization and Mifa Garem government, working together in Stepping Stones program.
The involvement of other NGOs and government helps provide the support and resources necessary for Stepping Stones to continue. When Stepping Stones began in the Solomons, some women had difficulty attending the sessions due to their traditional roles as mothers and homemakers. But the community turned this challenge into a success. They introduced a special peer group made up of the community's children.
Inside other Pacific countries, children's peer group have no one fella approach where Ota take him on board. Yeah, but for Solomon Islands, Bami say him a little bit unique because Solomon Islands, Okota look him the need for taking children's peer group inside the Stepping Stones program. Yeah.
In their individual peer groups, participants found the program provided a new way to discuss sensitive topics.
Where me fala divide look at the age groups that by him helping me fala for freely say or share him what something else.
Me fala learn him some things that like how me was communicate with him or big man and how me was go and negotiate with him some things about like condom and me for do him some for dramas that saw me for pictures about him what na happen lo society with them.
The support by other partners helps ensure that stepping stones in the Solomons will be sustainable.
In the Solomon Islands, I have no doubt that if we pulled out our regional assistance, they would still continue with stepping stones. That's a huge indicator of success when you're talking about development programs.
In Kiribati, 4 communities undertook the pilot program in 2007. The country now has 5 communities involved in stepping stones. One of the challenges for the program in Kiribati was that participants had been used to receiving allowances when they attended other training programs. With stepping stones, no allowances were paid.
When we first started out, there were about 45. On the second day, we were left with only about 29. But then the 29, they managed to complete the 3 months pilot project.
Another challenge in Kiribati has been the perception that some churches don't allow the open discussion of sexual issues.
We had some Catholic participants, and the male they left because they were uncomfortable because they said it's against their religion to talk about such sensitive issues such as HIV/AIDS.
While some of the adults found sessions too sensitive, the value of the information provided to young people was also recognized. One of the successes of stepping stones in the Kiribati pilot communities has been in the area of improved communication between husbands and wives.
Some mentioned that prior to the training they had, like in their homes, like the husbands were very dominant, since there's the head of the family, they seem to order the women around to do things. But then after the training, the women came home and they usually share with the husbands. And then there were changes that the men were willing to negotiate with the women, especially around sex, and also they were willing to help around in the home, look after the kids.
As in other Pacific Island countries, violence against women has also been a problem in Kiribati communities. Stepping Stones tries to address this issue through communication. Using stepping stones, men appealed to other men in their community to stop alcohol abuse or the violence they inflicted on their wives. This positive peer pressure can have a powerful impact on changing collective patterns of behavior.
Sa rende te ora kare tranquil. HIV.
Despite the many challenges faced, communities in Kiribati are proving that they themselves can identify and address their own issues and concerns.
Actually, we never give out the solution because we also tell them that you also know that you know your community well and you know the problem yourself, and it's you that who are going to find the solution.
So in this questionnaire, there's 19 questions, yeah?
Starting up a new program like Stepping Stones in the Pacific obviously has its challenges, but there's also been some notable successes. One success is the monitoring and evaluation, or M&E, of the program.
M&E of Stepping Stones is quite difficult. It's a behavioural change program. It's hard to actually assess its impact. SPC and FSPI have developed an M&E toolkit that we use now. That toolkit will help us gain information on impact and change at the community and the individual level. Worldwide, Stepping Stones hasn't really had that intensive M&E processes, so I think the Pacific has done really well in that context.
One message that has come out from the monitoring and evaluation is the need for more intensive training of facilitators.
So currently our facilitators are trained up using a 10-day training process, and that's simply just not enough to actually prepare them to facilitate discussions around sexual health and domestic violence and gender.
The facilitators form a key part of the success of Stepping Stones. Although in some cases they need to be better prepared for the demands of running Stepping Stone sessions, the facilitators are very positive about the potential of Stepping Stones for changing behavior in their communities.
Communities love it. They feel quite empowered about it. Stepping Stones facilitators really love it too and love the program and feel it's different than something they've done before. But not just different, that it actually empowers people to be able to talk about and address issues that are affecting their health within communities.
Based on the successes of Stepping Stones, the two coordinating organizations, FSPI and SPC, have received a new 3-year grant to continue the program.
We'll be introducing those prerequisite trainings that I spoke about earlier, giving more gender sensitization training to the facilitators, and bringing on more partners.
For a behavioral change tool like Stepping Stones, a long-term approach is crucial to its success.
Behaviour change doesn't happen quickly, and that's one of the other strengths of Stepping Stones in that it is a long-term program. The shorter-term changes that we've been able to measure to date, it is showing that attitudes change and the sorts of behavioural change that indicate that longer-term change is a possibility and that this could mean safer behaviours for that community.
To achieve sustained behavioral change, the unique approach of Stepping Stones seems well suited to the Pacific. Communities are given the skills to identify their own challenges and the means to address them in their own way.
We are just trying to bring something that will help them. I mean, it's a kind of prevention. We're trying to prevent what's coming up now, which is HIV/AIDS.
Meeting the Stepping Stones and one good fla program ipiti morna fla program we live in Ranem or we live in take part in him.
I would love to see that there will be a lot more organizations are involved in implementing the Stepping Stone program because I think it's really important to the communities.